Hello everybody! First of all, I want to introduce to you Sam Ruttenberg. He is an amazing drummer, amazing educator, and beautiful human being. Welcome to Kyiv, Sam.
Thank you, Maksym. I love it here. It's a beautiful city.
I have a number of questions to you. First question about your musical background. What was your education? What was your favorite drum teachers or educator who influenced your life and your musical life?
Well, I studied with a lot of people, but I would have to say my two teachers stand out to me. Buster Bailey, who I studied with at Juilliard, and he was the snare drummer in the New York Philharmonic, the best snare drummer of all time, in my opinion. And he taught me to get a fatter sound and to really work on my bus strokes to make them longer, so I wouldn't have to work as hard in my rolls and play so fast. He would ask me things like, how do I want it to sound like? And he just put things in my mind that hadn't really occurred to me. Like just practicing something very small, a small portion of something, to fix it, rather than going back to the beginning like a lot of students do. And he was a very philosophical teacher, and some things didn't occur to me that he taught me until like 10 years later. And I think that's the sign of a really good teacher. You know, if something comes to you that they said and 10 years later, and it finally makes sense to you, and that's pretty amazing, I think. The other teacher that I had was Joe Morello, and he was an idol of mine ever since I was, just a teenager. He was doing these big clinics down at the University of Miami for the Ludwig Drum Company, and he was the star, one of the stars. And once I heard him, I knew I wanted to study with him. But my career sort of got sidetracked, or not sidetracked, but it went towards the classical end. And then much later on, I got to study with him, which I'm thrilled about. And he taught me how to think about it in drumming in musical terms, and not just think about every note that you're playing, but more where you're going in the music. And that makes you relax on the other notes. In other words, go from accent to accent and care less about the notes that are in between, because they're really not as important, and that will really make you relax and get a smoother style.
Any other teachers you can mention?
Wherever I was, whether I was in, Miami or Houston or New York, I always managed to find a really good teacher and take advantage of, their being there. And one guy was a mallet player named Phil Krause, and he was like a big studio guy in the 70s, and he wrote several mallet books. And I studied with him for about 3 years in Houston. And that was just an amazing experience. He really taught me through the chords. I really got to understand theory, and I think that really helped me in listening to music better.
As I know, your educational background as a percussionist, classical percussion player, right?
Yes.
Mallet player. It's right.
Right. Yeah. I wanted to learn. Honestly. When I went to the University of Miami, I was there with Rod Morgenstein, Dan Gottlieb.
Yes.
Amazing players. And I knew right there when I was about 18 that, I'm going to have to diversify myself if I want to make a living. In other words, they were so good at that one thing. I didn't see myself being that good at any one thing. So to be a working musician, I realized that I would have to learn as much as possible. And I think that was a good thing, because that makes me a better teacher. Because, yes, I studied mallets, I studied timpani, I studied rudimental, I did classical, I did some drum set. And reading was always a very important part of that. So, I don't know how I got sidetracked, but I really think that learning as much as you can, and learning the different styles is really key to a full career.
Yes, balance.
A balanced career,
yes.
right? Because you're not always going to know where you're going to work. You might do a jazz thing, you might do a classical thing, you might be teaching. So you might do a studio thing, and it makes it more fun, I think, you know, to have the diversity.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And when I studied Master Studies second book,
yes,
I found your name on it.
Yeah.
So can you tell us more about this story?
Well, I was studying with Joe, and I came in to the lessons, and I would say he would give me exercises, and I would say, well, let's try it this way, or let's try it that way, and he liked that, and he said, well, you know, I'm writing another book, and I was wondering if you would help me.
Okay.
Yeah. So and that's how we collaborated on it, and it was such a thrill to be, you know, to be working with my idol on that.
This is amazing.
Yeah, and he was a very humble guy. I remember the first time I studied with him, well, my first lesson, I was there was a woman that went in there before me, and she was kind of a rock and roll kind of girl, and you know, all black clothing and dyed hair and tattoos all over. She seemed like a heavy metal kind of girl.
Oh yeah.
And I was listening in. I listened in. I was eavesdropping through the door, and he said, "Well, what do you want to do with your career?" And she said, "Well, I want to be the best female drummer in the world."
Amazing.
And he said, "Well, I'll do the best I can." You know, and I thought that was just such a modest thing to say, because he could have said, "Well, you know, let's just keep it real," or, you know, he could have put her down, and he didn't. He was just very gracious, and he always wanted to work with his students, and he did. You know, he was humble in that way, and it was great studying with him.
Beautiful. It reminds me a story about Joe Morella and Josh Lawrence Stone about accents through balance, accent and rebalance book.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same story.
Yeah, because Joe, Stone said, "How do you like the book?" And he said, "Well, I like it, but it doesn't have any accents." This is talking about stick control.
Yeah.
And then he realized, wow, Joe was right. So that's how he wrote Accents and Rebounds, and he dedicated the book to him.
Yes, absolutely. And when you open first page, you see big picture
and that's
of Joe Morella.
a great book.
Amazing.
Yeah, that it just you have all different rhythms, and you have to play them in different stickings.
All right.
So it really forces you to, you know, with the upstrokes, the downstrokes, and the preparation of strokes.
Yes.
Which he talks about in the Master Studies book.
Yes, right. So first book is stick control book.
Right.
Second one is accents and rebounds.
Right.
Third is Master Studies 1, and next one is Master Studies 2, where's your name on it and part of job you done.
Yeah,
this is a beautiful.
Thank you.
Is a huge.
That was
amazing.
a real honor.
Amazing. Second question is about your music career. What was your favorite bands or music acts you was involved in?
I have to say, I have so many that were my favorites, Maksym. I really do, because I got to do so many interesting things. For instance, I played 3 months on a cruise ship in Alaska in a show band when I was in college. And every week a new singer came in, and we had to read charts. And I think that's why I want to focus on that when we do the master class, because reading was just, I think it's such an important thing for young drummers. And I think it's to their disadvantage if they just learn to play and not learn to read, because when they think they can play, they don't want to learn to read because they already think they can play, and it's like going backwards. And you know that's hard. That's hard for some students. But that was a great experience. And being in Miami, I had another 3-week stint at the Fontainebleau Hotel, and every night was a different singer, and no rehearsals. We had the charts, we talked them down in the hallway, and we just had to go in and play the show every night for 3 weeks. And I was about 21, and it was just thrilling. It was a little scary, but I really thrived on it. I just loved it.
What this beautiful experience. Right?
Yeah, and my teacher was Fred Wickstrom at the University of Miami, and he was playing all these big shows on Miami Beach, and he called me once to sub for him for playing with Count Basie and Lena Horne, and that was
it's amazing. Wow.
That was so amazing. I was playing percussion, and again, no rehearsal. He just said,
Absolutely.
"Come in." He just said, "Come in." And just look over my shoulder while I'm playing. So I didn't get to play the rehearsal. I just had to go in, and I got to tell you, I was really nervous, but it went fine. And I got to also play with Brubeck, Dave Brubeck.
Dave Brubeck, it's amazing musician.
Yeah. And the first time I was playing marimba with a piece that he had written for it was a church piece, and the second was actually another church piece. And I got to play drum set with Randy Jones, who was his drummer, and we sort of became friends on that gig. And my part was orchestrated, but it was still a thrill to be playing the drum set alongside of Dave, because that's who Joe Morello had played with, and that was a real thrill.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It's an amazing experience.
Yeah, really great.
Hinge stick. Please explain your vision and why the stick happened, and what's this tool about?
Well, that's quite a story, and I don't know if I have time to tell you all of it, but I'll be very brief, because some of it was real luck. But I had been thinking about what my teachers taught me, going back to the great teachers. They were both Buster Bailey and Joe Morello, and they told me to feel the hinge. That was their word, and with the thumb and the forefinger. And then after I graduated Juilliard, I had actually gone to work for my father to supplement my income, because I had moved back to Philadelphia, and in his machine shop. So I got to understand how things work, and I was thinking, what if I could really create a hinge? From the knowledge I had from working with my father, and I was able to do it. It took a long time, and it was a lot of hard work, but I developed it, and what it does is it lets the stick float on these two hinges, so drummers can understand rebound, because so many times drummers hold the sticks too tightly, and they don't allow the stick to come back. They end up sore and cramped, and this eliminates all that. It's just such a natural approach to what my teachers had always taught me, but now in a physical form. So I created it, and I took it around, and it won Best in Show at NAMM, and I didn't even know there was a contest. That was the freaky thing about it, because someone just said to me, I'm here to find the best idea of the weekend. And I said, wow, well, look at these. And I showed her my hinge sticks, and she presented them, and I'll have to show these at the Best in Show breakfast. And I said, what are you talking about? And they ended up winning Best in Show. So it was really just fate, and it was a good product, and that's how it took off. And then the Vic Firth Company picked them up. And I'll actually be taking them out on my own this coming year. But I had a great run with the Vic Firth people, and I'm just so grateful to them, and for believing in me, and for believing in the sticks. They really do help. It really helps in grip, in rebound, and back fingers. It's just a great tool to help students understand things that are so important that can take years to learn, and with the hinge sticks, it can happen in a much shorter period of time.
I heard this John Morello say the same about the hinge stick, right?
Yeah, Joe said to me, and this was right before he died. I told him they won Best in Show, and he said to me that he wished he had them when he was a kid.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was so nice of him to say. I didn't believe it, of course, but it was very nice of him to say that. That's the kind of guy he was.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's really a guy. I met him too. So
yeah, right.
Amazing. Thank you very much.
Yeah, my pleasure.
And last, my question about your future plans. What are you planning on the near future?
Here's my future. This is very good. Good question. You know, for 40 years, I carried my drums and timpani and my mallet instruments all over the place to perform and, you know, play, but it's caught up with me. And when I come back from timpani gigs and drum set gigs, and my back is killing me.
Okay.
So I'm devoting myself more into creating, you know, this new generation of hinge sticks, and devoting more time to teaching, which I love. I just love the connection with the students, and I get better. I like teaching because it makes me a better player. And, you know, I don't necessarily find at this point the playing part as rewarding as the teaching. Absolutely. So I've sort of, you know, morphed into that, but I think it's for me, it works, you know, because I want to keep getting better, and my back won't tolerate the moving of equipment. You know, the timpani are very awkward.
Yeah, I saw your timpani.
Yeah, right. You saw. They're huge. So it's time. It's time to just do what I'm doing, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Amazing. Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. Thank you very much, Sam.
My pleasure, Maksym. Thank you.
It's really nice to see you here in Kiev.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for coming over and for your workshops. We will do Kiev and Lviv, 2 cities. Next time we will do more. Amazing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maksym. Thank you.
Thank you for watching.